I am California of the past.
I am California of the past. I am California of the past.
Therefore, as I introduce to you our illustrious speaker of this day, our good and gracious friend, Richard Willard Armour. Dick. I have this item here from the Pomona paper, the Daily of March 28, 1903. The headline is E.E. Armour Attacked. That's good. I mean, not good news, but newsworthy. And the subheading is, Enraged Contractor Gives Blows for Citizen's Suggestion. Arrested for battery. Trial set for next Tuesday. These were exciting days in Old Pomona. And here's the item. It'd make the front page of the Progress Bulletin today. Contractor H.C. Register, and I think you can still see his name on some of the sidewalk, which is where he belongs. But as you'll see in a moment, that's where he had my grandfather. Contractor H.C. Register this morning became enraged at the suggestion of E.E. Armour that the sidewalks be cleaned and resorted to hot words and blows. I also like the difference between the language in newspapers then and now. They'd have used the words without dashes. Now, this morning, as Mr. Armour was passing the library building on his way downtown, he noticed that the sidewalk was still covered with water and debris. It had been in a very unsatisfactory condition for several months, but while the building was going on, there was some slight excuse, and people were inclined to make the best of it and walk around. But of late, it has seemed that there was no need of such a state of affairs. Before the Chamber of Commerce excursion, apparently they had been down to see the new library, Mr. Armour had spoken to the contractor about it and had received a good-natured promise of improvement. My grandfather was a naive type, and he thought that meant something was going to be done. This morning, he thought it would be well to make another suggestion, and did so. But Mr. Register was not in a pleasant frame of mind, evidently, and answered with an angry retort that it was nobody's business. In reply to the comment that the same condition had existed for months, he called Mr. Armour a liar. It's been done lots of times since, but that's... and I like this expression in the journalism of the day, and dared him to strike. Today we have mugging and that sort of thing, but knows that you dared him to strike. And on being informed that his challenge would not be accepted, and let me interpolate here that my grandfather at that time was 43 years old. I don't know how old Mr. Register was. I bet he was 22. And my grandfather weighed 130 pounds, and he was lame. That's the kind of man to challenge. And on being informed that his challenge would not be accepted, I love this, the coward gave Mr. Armour 2 heavy blows on the temple and forehead. The latter fell. That's not the forehead, but my grandfather. The latter fell, and according to the story of a witness, was struck several times more. So that calls for the dastard, and the dastard struck him while he was down. He didn't have room for that. Though he himself, referring to my grandfather, it's a little mixed up, it sounds like Mr. Register, but he himself had no recollection of anything that happened after he fell. Merciful blackout. Several persons saw the last of the fray, and a crowd soon gathered. The contractor disappeared in their midst, but was found by Officer Will Keeson and taken before Recorder Lee. He was charged with violently striking the complaining witness and was released to appear for trial at the City Hall on Tuesday. Mr. Armour was taken to his home suffering severely from the effects of the blow, and Dr. Garcelin was called in to determine the nature and severity of the injuries received. Homer may remember Dr. Garcelin, I don't know. It was thought at first that the results might be quite serious, as the patient complained of severe pains in the head and spine, but he was resting easier this afternoon. And this is a wonderful close to this thing. That any man could so far forget himself as to strike one of Mr. Armour's peaceable disposition is beyond comprehending. And there was a general expression of indignation when the facts became known. Now, my reaction to this whole thing first reaction was, I was rather proud that I had, you see, sprung from, literally almost from the sidewalk, from a Gandhi-like grandfather, a man of peaceable disposition. But my second reaction was that I'm rather envious of the people who have come out of the Register family. I mean, who've come out from the tough type who hits the other fellow. My family has always taken the blows, you see. And when invited to strike, says, no thanks, I'm too light. Well, this is, I think, a wonderful, as I say, period piece which happens to attach in a beautiful way as Ray, and he's the one who found this in the paper. By the way, I didn't know what happened to, do you know whatever happened to Register? I didn't go on to the paper. You didn't go on to Tuesday to see what happened in court? Well, knowing something of justice, I will guarantee that probably they find my grandfather.